Hey guys, I'm not very good at front-facing videos, so you'll have to bear with me while I get used to this. So basically, I'm going to be showing y'all a video where I take some pants that I got from Goodwill and turn them into shorts because I have those thunder thighs that like to rub together, and so I have a hard time finding shorts that fit, and not only fit, but like aren't so far up my crack that I'm tasting them. So I took some Goodwill pants and cut them off and like turned them into shorts, which doesn't seem like a very complicated project, but it's just one of those things I'd been putting off until I was like sick of the big project I'd been working on. So I finally got around to doing it. And I like them Bermuda shorts. I know people get crapped on all over for liking the Bermuda shorts, but it is what it is. So I hope this video will be helpful to some of you, and I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so I've marked on these pants where I want the hem to end. I'll insert a picture here of me sitting in front of the mirror, because you really do want to put these on when you go to mark where you want to hem your pants. And then when I go, I'll mark down in about another inch because I wanted like a 1/2 inch double hem. I've also got 3 more pairs of pants. I got these at the thrift store. You can do this with regular pants, you know, if you're going to wear these out like to go places. These are going to be work pants or work shorts. That's my thing, is that I'm sick of finding shorts that are way too short. And so I went to the thrift store, bought a bunch of pairs of pants to then proceed to shorten it. And yeah, that's where we're going to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get my yardstick and start marking out the actual cut line, and then we will proceed from there. And for those who might want them shorter, because I usually do mine about like not quite to the knee, but almost to the knee is where I like a lot of them, because chub rub is a thing. If you've never had bloody chub rub, then consider yourself very fortunate that your butt, the roundness of your butt, is going to pull the shorts in the back up a little bit higher. I don't know how much, but they will pull them up a little bit higher. So you might want to, when you go to do behind, when you go to do basically the seat, you're going to want to like cut them just a little bit. I'd say like 1/2 inch lower, so that when they ride up, you're not, unless you want cheek, which that's your prerogative. So yeah, let's go ahead and get this started. Okay, so as you can see, I struggled for a bit there, mostly because my setup is when you're trying to save money, you're willing to put up with a lot of shit to save money. But basically, my setup has it so that I couldn't use my yardstick how I normally would, which would be, if you can't tell, I measured down 1 inch from the pin, the pin I wanted most, because without someone else here to help, I don't know those 2 pins were not straight together. And so I would normally, from the inch mark down to the hem, the original hem, I would, do that all the way around the leg. Well, my setup doesn't exactly allow me to do that, and I didn't want to like rearrange it again. So I was like, okay, you know what, we're going to do this dirty. oh shit, I'm not gonna do a double hem because I got my serger out. Anyway, and so I'm gonna use this on the other 3 pairs of pants. What I should really do is put each of these on and measure them where I want the pins to go, but guys, do you really want to put these on and off just to put one fucking pin? It's like, no, this will just be a template, and I'll show you how I'm going to use that template, and you can do with that what you will, but yeah. So yeah, let's go ahead and spread these out and start getting these things cut. One of the things you do want to do when cutting these is make sure that the hem of your pants more or less lines up, like, you know, pretty much sits as close together as possible. Is it going to be perfect? No. Do we care? Not really. Let's do what we need to do. Okay, so what I did to match up the pants was I actually laid the back along the back, because that will give you probably the best cutting line. I have a feeling each of these pants pairs is going to come out just a little bit longer. Of course, again, if you follow the back of the shorts, like, it should more or less come out the same length. I just don't want them shorter. I don't care if they get longer. I just don't want them shorter. Again, normally I would take my yardstick, I would measure down, make it all nice and pretty. I would also have put like pins where I wanted things on these pants to make them into shorts, but we're gonna be fucking lazy because that's what we are. So yeah, let's get to cutting and doing. So for serging, basically what this is a knife. This is cutting off a little bit of the edge. This will, you know, I've got a little measurement on my serger that, you know, if you put your, whatever your project is enough, you know, you can follow this, the lines here. I'm just kind of following the edge of the plate because I don't really want to cut that much off. This just makes it nice and clean and finishes it for you. When you serge, you want to try and start as much as you can on a seam. I mean, that's kind of how it is in sewing. When you hem, you want, you know, you kind of want to hide your finish and start your start and finish in a seam. You know, it just makes it clean. You don't necessarily, if you have a nice clean edge, you don't really need to worry about things like this. You can always use an overlock stitch on your sewing machine. Most of them have them. I'll show you when we get to that part. But yeah, that's what a serger more or less is. One of these days I might break it down for people, like how to thread a serger, the different parts, things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these shorts done, and then we will get to finishing up the hems. Okay, so I've got my sewing machine set up. I only have one small used IKEA table that acts as both clearly my computer and my sewing table. So unfortunately, I also have a 3D printer. That's a whole mess unto itself. I'm not going to talk about that right now. She's the ghost of not failures yet, but like you're on the block, like not chopping block, but like I'm going to have to figure you out anyway. So I have to deconstruct my serger. I have to construct and then deconstruct my serger every time I want to use it. So generally my projects build up before I have to get my serger, before I get my serger out. This time I just went ahead, because I have 4 pairs of pants I'm turning into shorts, it's worth the effort to set that up, which one day I will do like a little tutorial on how I set up. Every serger is a little different. There is a little thing like in a serger that, you know, shows you how to thread it. There's supposed to be an easier way. I keep failing at that. So I've gotten really good at threading my sergers. Okay, so overlock, I'm assuming would be this stitch. It's not the same as a serge, because a serge looks like this and compared to that, but it will, I mean, any amount of like hard line will kind of stop your fabric from fraying, not for a terribly long time, but for long enough. And again, these are work pants. I've got this threaded with black thread. I'm not, if these were shorts I was trying to make into something I wear out to do things with, like if I wanted to be seen and not as a mess, I would use the correct threads. However, as these are work shorts, and you can get away with a lot with just black and white thread. However, if you want to make it look more professional, you will spend the time and money to get the thread that would match the color. But again, as these are work shorts, they're going to be covered in paint and sawdust and fiber and airbrush paint and dye, and I'm not that invested in them. So let's go ahead and get this finished up. So I'm just going to turn this under about 1/2 inch. I'll show you when I get that done. And then just sew. All right, so if you can see, I've started pinning. I actually do both seams first, and then, because then you have to fit whatever fabric remains in that space. That's universal across whatever you're making. You'll find that especially true when you're doing bodices and you're doing princess seams, which I'll eventually talk about. So yeah, and because this has stretch, there's elastic in this. Like you can, like there's some solid stretch in these. Is it 2-way or is it 4-way? It's only 2-way. Okay. 2-way stretch is it basically stretches one way. And in this case, it stretches left to right. 4-way, which is like your performance fabrics, like what your gymnasts wear and things like that, it would stretch not just this way, it would stretch, this way. I really do not really like working with stretch fabrics. They're a nightmare to work with. They stretch and move, and they're usually silky, and they're a pain in the ass. But I'm sure I'll have to at some point doing this. Okay, but yeah. So I like to pin this at 1/2 inch. Also, get yourself a hem gauge. These things are like $1, $2. It's so much easier than trying to use like measuring tape or a rule, that 18-inch ruler, to do just simple. It goes up to 6 inches. It's so much easier to handle. And a lot of people scoff at it. And I'm like, no, ma'am. Because they're like, I can eyeball this. And I'm like, to an extent. I'm not that invested in these pants, but something about hems, like finishing them, like I want them, especially if you have an uneven hem, it will help you kind of even it out slightly. It will help with those small imperfections. And then I do 1/2 inch because it's fairly easy to find. And it's going to be hard to see on the plate. It's really hard to see on the plate here, but like this is the 1/2 inch line. Because the next step is 5/8, and they give you some numbers, but not all of them. And it's easy to follow that line. It's easy to do 1/2 inch. So yeah, okay, let's get to sewing. Let's get this project fucking done. So if you can see, I put my pins in sideways because of what I'm about to show you. Because if you need to, you can technically run over the pins. Hopefully you will miss it. However, I have broken more than my fair share of needles and bent more than my fair share of pins, thinking I might miss it. Just unless you have a fabric that, like a silk or silky fabric, that just you have to run over the pins, try to just stop and take them out. The world will not end. And then it starts to, like, especially with this weird mixture fabric, it starts to bubble. So I'm having to like pull and guide my fabric through. Let's see. Also, I'm keeping the serging in between the prongs of the foot. It's a guide. And it'll help me with keep a straight line, basically. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing, basically. So yeah, I will come back once they're all done. And there we have a finished pair of shorts for me. Huzzah! Oops, that's the butt. Yeah. It doesn't look awesome in the leg because this is some really fucking stretchy fabric. What's the fabric content in here? 61% cotton, 29% rayon, 8% polyester. It's amazing how much, because there's only 2% lycra spandex, and yet it's got this much fucking stretch. Most clothes nowadays, when they have elastic, it's between 2 and 4%, and yet it is the amount of stretch this thing gives. Of course, rayon and cotton are woven fabrics, which will also have a natural stretch, but it really comes down to the lycra spandex. That's really giving this the most stretch, and that's why this is kind of bubbling. Now, what I should do is I should go iron this to give it a nice crisp edge, but again, if this were like something I wanted to look really nice, then I would do that, but this is just functional, so we're gonna leave it like this. Okay, I'll be back in a sec just to show you what I mean and why I made the choices that I did. So the shorts are now done and put away because I pre-washed them. Always, always pre-wash your items when you get them from the thrift store because they don't. Okay, like you don't. I felt really gross trying them on before. You know, I wash them, but sometimes you have to just to make sure the size is gonna work. So yeah, the shorts are done, put away. So what do I? I did manage to actually break a needle. Fun times when I didn't mean to. It was just I was going so fast and not paying as much attention to where the pin was, and it hit at the right angle and it busted the fucking needle. So I told you to be careful and then did it myself, and that's what happens. Okay, so I have the rest of the pants, you know, the end of the pant legs left over. What should I do with them? I'm probably going to turn them into rags, but not cleaning rags, more like work rags. And what I mean by that is I have socks, you know, they're good. I want rags to just put down whenever I need to use my like airbrush, because half the time that's just a fucking mess. Or if I need to like sop up any paint or dye or anything like that. Like these are more utilitarian than they are like cleaning or, you know, things like that. So that's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to get my pinking shears and pink these. I'm not going to serge them. They're just going to be rags. Pink those, and then that will be the end of this project. I'll have my closing thoughts in just a bit. Hey guys, so I hope that video was helpful. Again, it's just a small project that's kind of easy to do. You don't have to use a serger. You can just roll up the pants once. You just have to maybe walk your needle through the seam on the side. That's what I had to do when I visited my parents back on Thanksgiving, and my dad gave me some of his work pants. And I had exactly one needle to work with, so when I got to those, I would just like very slowly walk my needle through the very thick seam. So that's my like one little hint. I'm sorry if this is shaking. It's on my desk and you're sitting on very precarious perch. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoy. Please let me know in the comments down below if you think this was helpful. You know, give me your thoughts on this, and I will see you all soon.